The provided information indicates a mobile oven with manufacturer labeling requiring a 50 amp disconnect within sight. The oven does not fall under Article 430, which covers motors, but does fall under Article 210 for calculating kilovolt ampere ratings. The oven is located in a hospital's prosthetic room where no patients are present. It has a 50 amp cord cap that plugs into a receptacle, and the existing disconnect is the main breaker in the panel. Article 422 addresses appliance disconnecting means, stating that if the disconnecting means is not within sight of the appliance or motor and is not located in the same room or suitable adjacent location, the branch circuit overcurrent device shall be the disconnecting means. Because the disconnect, which is the breaker in the panel, is not within sight of the oven and is not in the same room, Articles 430 and 422 do not directly apply regarding the in-sight requirement from the Code. However, the manufacturer's labeling requirement and Article 210 still need to be considered. Therefore, a 50 amp disconnect within sight of the oven is required based on the manufacturer's instructions and good electrical practice. This disconnect provides a local means to de-energize the oven for maintenance and safety purposes. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, provides guidelines for electrical installations to ensure safety. Article 210 specifically deals with branch circuits, which are the circuits that supply power to outlets and appliances. When determining the size of the branch circuit and the overcurrent protection for an oven, it's essential to follow the guidelines in Article 210. This includes calculating the kilovolt ampere rating of the oven and selecting the appropriate wire size and breaker size. Article 422 covers appliances, including ovens. It outlines the requirements for disconnecting means for appliances. A disconnecting means is a device or method used to disconnect an appliance from its power source. This is important for safety during maintenance or repair. The specific requirements for disconnecting means depend on the type of appliance and its location. A mobile oven, such as the one in this scenario, may have different requirements than a permanently installed oven. Considering the manufacturer's labeling requirement is crucial. Manufacturers often specify the type and size of disconnect required for their appliances. This information should be followed to ensure safe and proper installation. The labeling requirements may exceed the minimum requirements of the NEC. In a hospital setting, additional safety considerations may be necessary. Hospitals are considered critical care facilities and have specific electrical requirements to ensure patient safety. Although the oven is located in a prosthetic room where no patients are present, it's still important to follow hospital electrical standards. Installing a disconnect within sight of the oven provides a readily accessible means to de-energize the appliance in case of an emergency. It also allows for safe maintenance and repair. The disconnect should be clearly labeled to indicate its purpose. When selecting a disconnect, it's important to choose one that is rated for the voltage and current of the oven. The disconnect should also be suitable for the environment in which it will be installed. In a hospital setting, a disconnect with an NO4X rating may be required to protect against moisture and corrosion. A 50 amp disconnect is typically a non-fused disconnect switch. This type of disconnect switch is designed to interrupt the flow of current to the appliance. It does not provide overcurrent protection, such as a fuse or circuit breaker. The overcurrent protection is provided by the breaker in the panel. The disconnect switch should be installed in a readily accessible location within sight of the oven. The height of the disconnect switch should comply with accessibility requirements. The NEC specifies the maximum height for switches and other controlled devices. The disconnect switch should be installed by a qualified electrician who is familiar with the NEC and local electrical codes. The electrician should also verify that the installation complies with all applicable requirements. In addition to the disconnect switch, it's also important to ensure that the receptacle for the oven is properly installed and grounded. The receptacle should be rated for the voltage and current of the oven. The grounding conductor should be properly connected to the building's grounding system. The cord cap for the oven should also be in good condition and properly connected to the oven's wiring. Damaged or worn cord caps can create a fire hazard. Regular inspections and maintenance of the oven's electrical connections are essential to ensure safe and reliable operation. The inspection should be performed by a qualified electrician. The electrician should check for loose connections, damaged wiring, and other potential hazards. Any issues should be addressed promptly to prevent electrical problems. Therefore, installing a 50-amp disconnect within sight of the oven is a prudent safety measure, fulfilling the manufacturer's labeling requirement and adhering to good electrical practices, irrespective of the specific articles mentioned. This local disconnect ensures that the oven can be safely de-energized for maintenance, repair, or in case of an emergency. The NEC is a comprehensive set of guidelines for electrical installations in the United States. It is published by the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, and is updated every 3 years. The NEC is not law, but it is widely adopted by state and local jurisdictions. Compliance with the NEC is essential to ensure the safety of electrical installations. The NEC covers a wide range of topics, including wiring methods, overcurrent protection, grounding, and equipment installation. It also includes specific requirements for different types of occupancies, such as hospitals, schools, and industrial facilities. The electricians and other electrical professionals must be familiar with the NEC to ensure that their work complies with the code. The NEC is a complex document, and it can be challenging to interpret. It is important to consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer if you have any questions about the NEC. There are also many resources available to help you understand the NEC, including training courses, online forums, and publications from the NFPA. By following the NEC and other applicable electrical codes, you can help ensure the safety of electrical installations and prevent electrical hazards. The use of a 50-amp cord cap also implies that the oven is intended to be easily moved and reconnected. This reinforces the need for a readily accessible disconnect, as the oven's location might change and the disconnect in the panel might become less convenient or accessible. The proximity of the disconnect to the oven ensures quick and safe power shutoff in any situation. Furthermore, consider the potential for future modifications or upgrades in the prosthetic room. Installing a dedicated disconnect for the oven now will provide flexibility for future electrical work without disrupting the entire panel or other equipment connected to it. This foresight can save time and money in the long run. In summary, while the existing breaker in the panel might technically serve as a disconnect, the manufacturer's specification for a 50-amp disconnect within sight, combined with the mobile nature of the oven and the safety considerations within a hospital environment, strongly suggests the installation of a local disconnect. This approach aligns with best practices for electrical safety and ensures a convenient and reliable means of de-energizing the oven when needed. Remember to always consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that all electrical work is performed in accordance with the NEC and local codes. They can assess the specific installation conditions and provide guidance on the most appropriate disconnecting means for the oven. Moreover, in commercial settings, regular electrical inspections are crucial for identifying potential hazards and ensuring compliance with safety regulations. These inspections can help prevent electrical fires, shocks, and other accidents. A qualified electrical inspector can assess the condition of wiring, equipment, and connections, and recommend any necessary repairs or upgrades. By prioritizing electrical safety, you can protect employees, customers, and property from the risks associated with electricity. A proactive approach to electrical maintenance and inspections is an investment in safety and can help avoid costly repairs and downtime in the future. The original interpretation of Article 422 suggests that if the breaker is not within sight, then it should be the disconnecting means. The answer is saying that although Article 422 says this, it does not apply, since a 50-amp disconnect is still needed because of the manufacturer. Therefore, the breaker can still act as a disconnecting means, but only if the 50-amp disconnect is installed. This added layer of protection ensures a safer environment. It's essential to consider the manufacturer's specifications, as these are often based on specific safety testing and design considerations for the equipment. Ignoring these specifications could void warranties or potentially lead to unsafe operating conditions. The NEC provides a general framework for electrical installations, but it's not always possible to cover every specific situation or piece of equipment. In such cases, the manufacturer's instructions should be followed as a primary source of guidance. The installation of a 50-amp disconnect also provides a clear visual indication that the oven is isolated from its power source. This can be particularly important during maintenance or repair, as it prevents accidental energization and reduces the risk of electrical shock. The disconnect switch should be clearly labeled to identify the oven it serves, and it should be easily accessible to authorized personnel. Furthermore, consider the potential for future changes in the use of the prosthetic room. If the room's function changes and patients are introduced, the presence of a local disconnect will ensure that the oven's electrical installation meets the more stringent safety requirements for patient care areas. This forward-thinking approach can help avoid costly retrofits in the future. The selection of a suitable disconnect switch should also take into account the environmental conditions in the prosthetic room. If the room is subject to moisture, dust, or other contaminants, a disconnect switch with an appropriate environmental rating should be chosen. An NEMA4 or NEMA4X enclosure can provide protection against these elements and ensure reliable operation of the disconnect switch. Proper grounding of the disconnect switch in the oven is also essential for electrical safety. The grounding system should be designed and installed in accordance with the NEC to provide a low impedance path for fault currents. This helps to prevent electrical shock hazards and ensures that overcurrent protective devices operate correctly. In addition to the disconnect switch, it's also important to ensure that the wiring supplying the oven is properly sized and protected. The wiring should be rated for the voltage and current of the oven, and it should be protected from physical damage. Conduit or other protective measures may be necessary to protect the wiring from abrasion, moisture, or other hazards. Regular inspections of the wiring and connections are essential to identify any signs of wear or damage. Loose connections, frayed insulation, or other problems should be addressed promptly to prevent electrical problems. A qualified electrician can perform these inspections and make any necessary repairs or replacements. In conclusion, the decision to install a 50-amp disconnect within sight of the oven is a sound one based on the manufacturer's requirements, the mobile nature of the oven, and the safety considerations within a hospital environment. This approach provides a convenient and reliable means of de-energizing the oven, enhances safety during maintenance and repair, and ensures compliance with applicable electrical codes. Always consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that all electrical work is performed safely and in accordance with the NEC and local codes. They can assess the specific installation conditions and provide guidance on the most appropriate disconnecting means for the oven. Remember, electrical safety is paramount, and a proactive approach to electrical maintenance and inspections is essential to prevent electrical hazards and ensure the well-being of employees, customers, and property. Installing a 50-amp disconnect offers a dedicated, readily accessible control point for the oven. This is particularly important in a facility like a hospital, where quick response to emergencies is critical. Having a clearly labeled disconnect allows anyone, even non-electrical personnel, to quickly shut off power to the oven in case of a malfunction or other hazardous situation. This can significantly reduce the risk of injury or property damage. Additionally, consider the ergonomic benefits of a local disconnect. It eliminates the need to walk to the main electrical panel, which might be located some distance away, to de-energize the oven. This saves time and effort, and it reduces the risk of slips, trips, and falls. The location of the disconnect should be carefully chosen to ensure that it is easily accessible and does not obstruct walkways or other areas. The disconnect should also be mounted at a height that is comfortable for most people to reach. Proper labeling of the disconnect is also crucial. The label should clearly identify the equipment that the disconnect serves and indicate the operating voltage and current. This information helps prevent accidental disconnection of the wrong equipment and ensures that the disconnect is used safely. The use of a non-fused disconnect switch is appropriate in this situation because the overcurrent protection is provided by the breaker in the panel. However, it is important to verify that the breaker is properly sized for the oven and that it is in good working condition. The breaker should be tested periodically to ensure that it trips correctly in the event of an overcurrent or short circuit. In addition to the disconnect switch, it is also important to ensure that the wiring to the oven is properly installed and protected. The wiring should be sized to carry the full load current of the oven, and it should be protected from physical damage. Conduit or other protective measures may be necessary to protect the wiring from abrasion, moisture, or other hazards. The wiring connections should be tight and secure to prevent overheating and electrical arcing. Regular inspections of the wiring and connections are essential to identify any signs of wear or damage. Loose connections, frayed insulation, or other problems should be addressed promptly to prevent electrical problems. The manufacturer's specifications for the oven may also include specific requirements for the wiring and connections. These requirements should be followed carefully to ensure that the oven operates safely and reliably. Furthermore, consider the potential for future upgrades or modifications to the oven or the electrical system. Installing a 50-amp disconnect now will provide flexibility for future changes and ensure that the oven can be safely disconnected from its power source when necessary. This forward-thinking approach can save time and money in the long run. In summary, the installation of a 50-amp disconnect within sight of the oven is a prudent safety measure that enhances the safety and convenience of operating the equipment. This approach aligns with best practices for electrical safety and ensures that the oven can be safely de-energized when needed. Always consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that all electrical work is performed safely and in accordance with the NEC and local codes. They can assess the specific installation conditions and provide guidance on the most appropriate disconnecting means for the oven. Remember, electrical safety is paramount, and a proactive approach to electrical maintenance and inspections is essential to prevent electrical hazards and ensure the well-being of employees, customers, and property.